Hello everyone, my name is Dar Rath and I'm the pastor at Faith Lutheran Church in Port Elgin, Ontario, Canada. And each week I bring you a story written by other authors that take about 5 minutes to watch. And this week I'm bringing you a story that will give you something to think about. It's written as a column by Dr. Dave Davis, and Dr. Dave Davis is a friend of mine. He's a retired family doctor and medical educator. And he writes columns for the Hamilton Spectator. So this is one of his more recent columns that he just wrote. So here's what Dave says. Like all of us, I've been watching the stories of the healthcare teams, the doctors, nurses, and others, working the overcrowded, impossible ICUs. Like all of us, I've been impressed with their bravery and competence in the face of overwhelming odds. And before the vaccine, huge personal risk, a product of their training and humanity. Like some of us, I've searched my memory for similar stories. For example, SARS in 2003 and its impact on Ontario hospitals, my own included, the masks and protective equipment, the fear, the monitoring patients by phone, and the feeling that this can't be happening, though of course it did. Most of all, I remember this story. It was a regular office visit in the days when we could actually have office visits. At the end of her visit, Mrs. K said, "I trained in medicine too, doctor. You may not have known that." Well, I was surprised a bit because I knew Mrs. K as an elderly patient only, not realizing the details of her life story. My fault. I hadn't thought to inquire. Her English still flavored by Polish and Yiddish. She said, "It was in the Warsaw ghetto in the Second World War. It wasn't what you'd call an official medical school. A group of physicians decided they should teach others since their numbers were diminishing and their workload was increasing. I was only 18 and had thought of nursing as a career before you know." She looked away for a moment and then continued. But one of the physicians spoke with me, suggesting that medicine would be a better choice. My parents agreed, and I spent a year, maybe more, in school, until thanks to a friendly German guard, she escaped the ghetto and fled ultimately to Canada. Thanks to the late Charles Rowland, a physician and medical historian, we've come to learn about the short life of the medical school there. His book, Courage Under Siege, Starvation, Disease, and Death in the Warsaw Ghetto, tells the story. The school was established in 1941 by the Jewish Council that was approved by the Nazis as a means of combating epidemics, especially typhus. Its secret mission, however, was a full medical school for its students, a kind of passive resistance against the regime. It provided a standard European curricula taught by what Rowland describes as a distinguished faculty. Ironically, the focus on typhus was self-fulfilling. You try squeezing roughly the population of Hamilton into 10 square blocks and you see what happens. And starving them, by the way, denying them basic necessities like clean water and sanitation, in the end the school gave several hundred students a medical education, opening a window in what their lives could have been like. Mrs. K was one of those. From 1940 to 1943, the ghetto inhabitants lived in hugely overcrowded rooms, fighting for survival against starvation and disease. In the end, Warsaw lost the majority of its pre-war population of 400,000 Jews, most of these students included. I'm lucky enough to know another physician and medical historian, a student of the Holocaust, Bill Seidelman. Describing the Warsaw Ghetto Medical School, my friend wrote, "Can you imagine living in hell personified, not knowing if you or your loved ones would be alive tomorrow, and studying for an exam and crying if you got a poor mark? Unbelievable." I can't, frankly, and it happened. Like all of us, I look for light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. There are many, actually, and here's one of them. Although the circumstances are vastly different, something of the courage of the doctors and nurses witnessed in the Warsaw ghetto has seeped ahead many decades into the training and conduct of our pandemic physicians and nurses, informing, heartening, and inspiring. I totally agree with Dr. Dave Davis's comments. I'm the chaplain at the Southampton Hospital, and every once in a while they will have an outbreak occur from time to time. There are no visitors allowed, isolation protocols go into effect, and all of the hospital staff are heroes in my books. The doctors, the nurses, the lab techs, the x-ray people, the people working in the kitchen, and my goodness, the housekeeping staff, they have to sterilize everything. My goodness. They inspire me every single time I go there to see patients. As far as I'm concerned, they are all heroes, and certainly honored to be part of the team. So something to think about today, some interesting history there about the medical school in Warsaw. So blessings on your day, and thanks for taking 5. We'll see you next week.